Hi everyone, welcome to References Part 2. Today we will be dealing with what is a hash reference, what is an anonymous hash reference, what are arrays of arrays, what are hashes of hashes, what are arrays of hashes, and what are hashes of arrays. So let's start with the first topic. In the previous topic we discussed what is a reference, what is a script. In previous topic we discussed on the previous references part 1, we discussed the following topics, right? Differences between a reference and a variable, the reference operator, what are scalar references, the meaning of dereferencing, the array reference, and what do you mean by anonymous array reference. So today, let's start off with what do we mean by a hash reference, right? So, as we discussed previously, any reference, whether it's a reference to a scalar, whether it's a reference to an array, or whether it's a reference to a hash, will always be stored in a scalar. So let's go ahead and first define our hash reference. So here, okay, so let's go ahead and so this is a simple hash that we have created named X. So X is the hash over here, and these are the key value pairs, right? Key. This is the key. This is the key, and this is the value, right? Now let's create a reference variable $y is equal to %x, and let's print out this value. So once I print the value of $1, it will basically say I'm a reference to a hash, and it will contain the address of the hash. Right, so let's just print this out. So here you see, as we mentioned, $y is actually pointing to a hash, and it contains the address of the hash, right? Now let's come to the next topic. We need to find out what is an anonymous hash reference. So as the name indicates, an anonymous hash reference is something where the hash that is defined does not have a name. So in this previous example, we saw that the hash has a named X here. But now when we create an anonymous hash reference, we are directly creating the hash without a name. Let's see how we create that. So since it's a anonymous hash, and then I can put in values over here. So here, this is the reference, and if you look at it, this hash doesn't have a name, right? So this is basically called an anonymous hash reference. So the value will pretty much be the same as we saw previously. Y will be pointing to a hash and contain the address of this, right? So let's print this out. So there it is. The output is still the same, right? Now, so anonymous hash reference are pretty useful, where you don't really have to again start defining the hash, and you can just use it on the fly without naming the hash, right? That's pretty useful for us. Now coming to the next topic that we have, arrays of arrays. So let's see what is arrays of arrays in Perl. So as the name indicates, arrays of arrays, sorry, it basically indicates we're trying to put something like a concept called nested arrays. We're trying to put multiple arrays within a single definition. You can have one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, etc. Right? So let's see how that concept works. So let's define an array first, right? X. So this is one array. I'm defining my next array by opening the square brackets 33, 44, 55. Let me define another array 44, 303, 222. So now I've defined an array X which has three specific arrays. One array, first array, second array, and third array. Now the goal would be to access the elements of this array. That is where the exact difference lies, right? So what I would do is print $x. Now we have three arrays. I want to access value 44. How do I access value 44? Now this is the 0th array, first array, right? So I would say $x of 1, and then I would need the index, right? Since I want to print 44, the index is again 1, 0, 1, right? So this is the index 0 of the first and index, right? So it should be 1. So let me just print this out, and you should get the value of 44 in the out. So there it is. You've got the result 44. So this is basically arrays of arrays in the simpler concept. Now let's see something called as something like which you can call as nested arrays, where I'll try to squeeze in a few arrays within this itself, right? So in this one array, I'll put in a few more, right? So let's see how that works. So just modifying this, just putting another square bracket here, here, and let me define one more here. Let's say 3, 4, 5. Right, so this comes under first array now, and in this first array we have another two arrays within it, something called as nested, right? Similarly, let's do the same thing here. Right, so now this is the second array, which has two arrays again inbuilt within it. Let me close this bracket. Again, let's put another here. So now my goal here in this complex array, let's say I would want to access 444. Observe these brackets carefully. Now this and this, right, this and this would come as the 0th. Let's see how many arrays we have. 0, 1, 2, right? So 2 over here, right? And in this 0th array, how many arrays we have again nested? That is 0, 1 here. In this first array, we have again 0 and 1 here. And in this again second, we have 0 and 1 here. Now, let's say my goal is access 666. I need to print out this value, right? So let's see how do I print that out. Print $x. Now I want to print 666. First, I want to see what is the array number. So this indicates 0th array, first array, and my second array, right? So I would say $x, first thing that would come is the array number, right? 2. Then within this second array, what is the index of 666? 0th index, first index, right? that comes later. But before that, you see within this second array we inbuilt two arrays. So what is the position over there? 0th array, again first array. So I would put here 1, and within that again now I have to come to the index. So what is the index of 666 here, right? 0 and 1, which will come 1 here. And let's print it out. We should get the value of 666. Okay, so I think it's just a syntax issue. Let me just see where that is. Okay, here we missed up closing braces, so just put that. It should work fine now. So there it is. You got the value 666. So this is arrays of arrays. So let's go to the next topic, which would be hashes of hashes, right? So let's see how hashes nest within themselves and how can they coexist with each other, right? So the simple thing, I would change this all. Let's remove all this. So define a hash. X. This is my first, and let's define another one. So I've defined two hashes here. So let's see how I have to access this hash, right? And let's put another key value, say r equal to greater than. And this is the way you define hashes within hashes, right? So you basically, how this whole structure is defined, this is a key, this is a key, and this is a value. So this is the chain you should follow to get the value 1. Similarly, if you want to get the value 2, the chain you follow is r, which is like a primary key. This is a secondary key, and ultimately you get the value. Similarly, here this primary key, secondary key, you get the value. Here again the primary key, something like a secondary key, and then you get a value, right? So this is how you basically try to parse a hash within a hash and ultimately try to get the value. So let's try to print the value, right? How do you print the value, right? So print, let's say I want to print the value of 3. So here the primary key is n and the secondary key is a. So let's print it out. Print $x of n of a. So that should pretty much print the value. Let's check it out. So there it is. We've got the value 3. Now the next thing, let's see what's the next option. Let's try to put this in a loop and see how it tries to work out, right? So for each dollar key keys of percentage x. So what we're trying to do is we are basically trying to get the keys of this hash. So since there are two keys here, as you see, as I've said previously, the first statement, this statement would first extract this key R and N. So the output we should be getting is R and N. Let's have a look. Let's print it on slash. Just give me a new line character. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, maybe a missing bracket. Let me just have a look. Print. Okay, there's a closing bracket missing here. That's the reason why you got a syntactical error. Okay. So there it is. You've got an N as well as an R. Now the question is, we need to access the values through a loop, right? So just put in another loop here for each. $key1 keys percentage. Now what we're going to do is we're saying $x of $key, right? And with this we should get the secondary keys, right? So $key1 will now contain the secondary keys, that is Q, example W, as we parse, as we go on, right? It will contain Q, W, secondary keys, A, S, etc. So that's the way it would actually go at, right? So let's see what's this output. Okay, so we missed a closing braces here. So just let's put that in and let's go ahead and execute. Just looking at the code, just give me a moment. There is missing that. Okay, so there is one braces that is missing here. So let's just put that in. That's just a syntactical error. So let's try to execute it now. Yeah, so there it is. We got the answers, right? So we got the outputs printed here pretty much clearly, right? So for values n, you got 3 and 5 printed, and for values r, you got the key values 2 and 1 printed, right? So that is how your array was, right? So for n, you got the value 3 printed, and for 5 printed. Now for the value q, you've got 1. For the value r, 1 and 2 printed, pretty much. So that's the exact output that you've got. So this pretty much covers the topic hashes of hashes, right? So let's go to the next topic, which is arrays of hashes, and which are pretty complex topics, and we need to pay pretty much a good attention to this, which are pretty much useful in our day-to-day programming, right? So let's look at what are arrays of hashes, right, today. So as the name indicates, arrays of hashes, right? That means we are defining an array and basically we're containing hashes within it, right? So let's see how that works. Let's define it. So here we are defining an array and we have hash elements within it, right? So let me just close this braces. Okay. So let's see how to access the elements. So we have two elements, first element, second element, right? So let's see how to access this values, right, basically. So if I want to access the value, what I would do is I would do a print $x, the index value, which is 0, and the key value, which is q. Just understand the representation. Whenever we're representing something for a hash, we're using these curly braces, and we're representing an array, we're trying to use this. So just try to understand that, how we are actually interpreting that, right? And we should get the value 1 now printed. Let's check that out. There it is. You got the output 1 as directed, right? So let's try to put this in a loop and see how it functions, right? So that's the major cause wherever you would want to use it actually, right? Reach. So just trying to loop through each of the elements of the array. Let's put a count 0 because we need the index values to be accessed, right? And let's put a count plus plus. The reason why we're using a count variable is because when we were accessing the key values with their indexes, and since indexes start with 0, I've initialized it with 0, and let me just increment it later, right? So that we access or till it, the loop completes through all the counters. That means 0, all the indexes in fact, right? So now let's get it. Now I need to get the key values to extract the values. So I'll explain the program once I finish typing it. So let me just try to execute, and then I'll come back and explain the program to you. So it looks like a syntactical error. Let me see where it goes. Okay, we didn't declare it here. That's one issue. We didn't put a semicolon. And here also, let's put one more semicolon. So that's the reason why we got an error. So let's come back here again and try to execute. Okay. So there it is. We got the values, right? So what exactly this program was doing, right? Let's see what exactly this program was doing. Let's just try to modify this a bit. Just give me 1 minute. Let's execute it now. Pretty much. So if you observe, I made a difference, right? The reason why I put count plus plus within the loop, because it was not taking all the values in the keys here. So that is the reason why I had to put it outside this loop, so that we get the values of this keys as well, right? So previously we only got the values 1 and 2, right? So in order to get all the key values, I had to put this outside this for each loop. Now let me explain clearly what this program was doing. Let me explain clearly, since it is a pretty confusing program. So first we defined an array, and then within that we defined 2 hashes, right? And this is actually the procedure to access this type of data structure. So it's similar way you access an array. $x of 0, which is the index, and q is the key value. And always remember the braces will be placed in the same way. Since this is related to hash, we place it in curly, and this is the index. The way you access to an array is through square brackets. The reason why I put a count is equal to 0 is because I need to start from 0 index, and that's the way you access the elements in an array, right? And I want to put it in a loop, right? Now I'm parsing through each of the elements of the array, right? So the elements are, we have two elements, 1, 2, right? And after that, we are trying to get the keys of the hashes so that we ultimately can get all the key values. So what I've done, I put in the keys, and we're doing a $x of the index, right? So when I do a $index of 0, we'll get the values q and w, right? And $index of 1, we get the values 4 and 5. I'm sorry, a and s, and q and w. So we get all the keys with the statement q, w, a, s. So once we get all the keys, what we're trying to parse through each of them, right? So what we're doing is trying to parse through each of them. So $x of index name 0 and $key 1, which is q, which would have generated the output 1. Then next, it will come to $x of count 0, and then it will produce the output 2. Similarly, next the count is incremented and we go to index 1, and similarly the whole process starts again and you get the values 4 and 5, right? Hope that's clear. Yeah. Yeah, so let's just take a 5 minutes break and we'll just come back and we'll discuss the last topic for the day, which should be hashes of arrays, right? So just take a 5-minute break and I should be back in a moment. Yep, thank you. So welcome back again. So let's continue with the last topic for the day, right? So let's see what's the last topic for the day. It's going to be hashes of arrays. So let's see, as the name indicates, previously we defined an array and put hashes within it. Now let's see how we can define a hash and put array elements within a hash. Remember, I'm putting array elements within a hash. So let me just take a simple program here. So it's pretty, let's put this, remove this all, and let's put a simple program. $x. Let's put in the key value. And look at the square brackets. I'm putting array elements in here. This is a very powerful tool that we need to know, right? So, comma. So basically the keys over here are containing array elements. So you need to understand that the keys are basically containing array elements. Now how do I access each of these elements, right? So print $x of 0 of the key value key and the index number, simple, right? So that's the way. So what this would do, it goes to my key, and what is the index in this key? It's 0. So it would this would print the value 1, right? So this would print the value 1. Let's have a look. There it is. So here we have the output 1, which is as expected. Now let's look at the next part, right? We always want to try to loop through an array in such complex data structures. Otherwise, you really cannot use these data structures for much purpose, just for printing out individually the values, right? So that's basically a first standard guidance or second standard guidance, right? You ultimately would want to use it in complex data structures, put it in loops and parse the values, right? So that's where exactly we try to use this. So let's see how I can do that. Similar way, since it's always associated with the index, I always put a count is equal to 0 to access the value later. Let's see. Since this is an array. So this will basically return both the keys, that is E. First, always we have to retrieve the key values, E and W, right? So once we've retrieved the keys, I need to get these values, right? I need to extract these values. So what do I do for here? Key1. So let's print the key first, and next I want to print all the values for that key, right? So here let me print the values for that key. And just give the key value. In this way, what this would print is, first it would print the key and then all the values of the all the values in the, since this is a list, I put at because it is returning a list, and only an array can hold a list of elements that are coming in, right? So that is the reason why we use this syntax. So let's put this. Okay, so that's good. And let's try to print it out. So there it is. It prints out exactly what we want, right? So it's printing out the complete list, right? So that's the way it actually prints it out. So basically what we did here is we defined a hash. Within a hash, we defined the key and the values, which are basically array elements. And this is actually the procedure, how to extract an element from such a complex data structure. Once we've done that, we've just parsed through, trying to get the key values of the hash. From there, we were just trying to ensure we get all the array elements within a hash, within an array, because here $x of $key means that it would $x of $e has values 1, 2, 3, 4, which are all array elements, and the output should come as this way, right? And if you would want to print out individual elements, you could always do that. They use the $counter and do it based on an index, right? So that pretty much sums up the concept of references for us. This is references part 2, and hope you all understood this, and you can always post me questions, and any issues you can always give me a call as well. Thanks everyone for joining this session. It was a really good time, and have a great day. We'll join up for tomorrow's session on modules. Thank you.